Boom, there we go. Perfect. So this is the Business, Life, and Brotherhood podcast. My name is Justin Gazba, and today we've got Michael Shan on the line with us. And so we're just going to cut right into it, folks. And so for those of you watching, listening at home, we're about to dive in. So Michael, if you would, let's just jump into 45 seconds for those back home that don't know, that are listening and watching at home that don't know yet. Could you give us 45 seconds kind of background, who you are, what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So my name is Michael. I pledged AKSI. It seems like a long time ago, really not that long ago, in spring 2012. I went to UW, so I'm a diehard Husky, also a diehard sports fan. I think one team that I'm interested in more than a lot of people are the Seattle Mariners. So if you want to talk sports depression with me, we can definitely talk about the Mariners in great length. So I graduated a couple years ago. Now I work at Tableau. It's a software company. I work as a trainer. So now I get to teach. I get to teach classes around the country, and I like to say I get paid to talk now. So that's what I was hoping I would get to do after college.
That's awesome, man. That's so killer. So we'll definitely dive into what kind of that business and your life there looks like. But I want to kind of talk about just a little bit about Chapter. I know that Chapter members watch this, and we've got alumni that pay attention too. But what was you said spring 2012? Was that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. And so your Chapter life, what did that look like for you? Were you involved in any committees or any big projects, leadership roles?
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of give us the scope of kind of what the RHO Chapter looked like in 2012.
Yeah. So I started, I started in leadership pretty quickly. Actually, the first leadership position I got was not by choice. So I wasn't planning on running for anything. It was my first quarter, actually my first meeting in fall 2012 after summer had ended, and we needed someone to fill the position of VP of Alumni Relations. I think the person who was supposed to do it ended up getting an internship, so she couldn't do it anymore or something like that. So I'm sitting here at my first meeting, and Stuart, our president at the time, basically said, "Hey, we have an opening for VP of Alumni and Social Chair. Does anybody think they'd want it?" And everybody's kind of looking around the room like, who's going to raise their hand? And I don't know what compelled me to raise my hand, but I just did. So at my first meeting, I got my first leadership position. I kind of went from there. So I did VP of Alumni for about a year and a half or 2 years. After that, I got really interested in the pledge process, or at least being involved with that on the other end, not the pledging end, but the membership end. So let's see, after VP of Alumni, I did Pledge Educator for the executive board for a quarter. And then my last 2 years, I did VP of Internal Affairs. That was a new committee that I helped start. Our chapter got bigger and bigger as we kind of moved forward in my time in college. So we kind of needed a committee to, I don't know, keep spirits up, kind of make sure, almost like it functions like sort of like an HR committee, so you make sure your committee, the committees and leadership and the e-board were getting feedback on, how they were planning events for members and whatnot. So that's kind of what I did in internal affairs. And then my last year I did Master of Rituals. So I got to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you did everything basically.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
it helped having a fifth year too. So I got one extra year to do something.
It's almost like a huge benefit, actually. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I would highly recommend a fifth year to anybody. If you can afford it, do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so like feet to the fire straight away. First meeting,
basically, yep.
Jump right in. And then alumni relations too. I know that my experience back in Chapter, our chapter was so new that we didn't really have any alumni to connect with back then. But you guys, you've had a long history. What kind of challenges or successes did you find in that role?
Oh man, I mean, one challenging thing was being a new member and having to connect with, people I have never spoken with or never known of before. I mean, I had literally, been in AKSI for or a member in AKSI for like less than one day or one meeting, and now I have to talk to people who have been in AKSI for years. So that was a little challenging, just figuring out like how to best communicate with people. Should I call them? Should I email them? Should I just try to casually Facebook message them? Right? What should I do? So the communication part was a little challenging for me, and it was also a little challenging figuring out what events to plan. I mean, I really had nothing to go off of. Like if you become a VP after a year of seeing what people do, you're like, okay, I like that and I didn't like that, so let's change this or keep this. Again, I had less than a day of experience. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna try to do something.
So what did you find? I mean, what route did you take? Email? Did you take Messenger? Did you just, guerrilla market out? Like, what did you end up doing?
Yeah, it was a combination of emails and phone calls. So we had a database of some alumni. So I'd have my committee members call people and email them. So that seemed to work okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a great book. I don't know if you've come across it, but it's called The 7 Levels of Communication. Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, it's quick, it's easy, but it's brilliant. And they talk about like trying to get people's attention, right? And so, a postcard in the mail, it's just you're going to throw it out. A letter in the mail, you might pay more attention to it, right? You work all the way down to like a phone call. You're going to definitely, if you get a postcard from a guy, an email from a guy, and a phone call, you're going to start paying attention, right? I just love that you got your team to jump on the phone. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, man, you should have told me about that book before.
I wish we would have connected back then. Yeah,
I know.
That would have been awesome. No, that's killer. So then, doing all this stuff in chapter and connecting with alumni, like, did anything were you able to connect and make lifelong friends that had been out of chapter, or make connections with people? Because I know like a lot of things people are, they're shooting for internships, they're connecting with these people, they're doing that. And as somebody, as a VP of alum, you kind of have this main line right out to a ton of people who are already in the workforce. Did you guys, were you able to arrange any kind of net benefit for yourself or for the chapter?
That's a super good question. For myself, I think I mostly made like professional connections and connections that kind of just lasted for my time in college, really. I think maybe part of that was me not pursuing connections to, for a personal, for a personal benefit. I wanted to make sure like we had good events and people knew how to connect to brothers. So that I think that's kind of how I prioritized it. But there were plenty of older members that, of course, became alumni after my first year that I still keep in contact with. Still friends. We still hang out on weekends. Still go to, UW football games together and whatnot. So that first year, I think, was just it felt like a transition year for me, like getting my bearings down on, how to get stuff out of AKSI and whatnot, and of course how to plan stuff. But I think after that, that's where more of my more lifelong connections happen.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is kind of like, I don't know what it is about like getting into chapter, but that first like 2 quarters or whatever, you kind of feel like everybody knows something you don't. I don't know if that was my experience.
Oh, for sure. Like,
am I missing something? Like, why? I just felt that way the whole time. You get out and you're like, oh wait, no, actually, I did.
Right. And especially after having such an intense pledge process, and I mean that's all of AKSI for like a whole quarter, and then your first meeting in membership is like, okay, wait a minute, these people are not putting me through an interview process anymore. They're just, they're just brothers. So it just takes a little bit of time. Yeah, I know.
So that's awesome, man. So, well, let's do the transition, right? From AKSI, from college, from spending all that time in Seattle and obviously still living here now. You're at Tableau. Was that your first place? Did you bounce around a little bit? Did you work in college? What did it look like navigating post college into the career that you're in now?
Yeah. So I had two majors in college, one of which was finance, another was information systems. It was kind of I don't know, a path that I just honestly, I wouldn't say it was a random choice, but it's not like I knew I wanted to be in finance after college. I didn't know I liked, information systems. I knew I like numbers and I like technology, so it kind of just went that route.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so
Yeah,
my big, oh yeah, yeah. So my big at AKSI, Cameron, he helped get me into this finance internship at Amazon. It's a 6-month gig, full time. You have to take a quarter or two off of school. Um, it was a really intense internship. It was a so yeah, operations finance internship. I did a lot of reporting. I was in Excel probably like 90% of my time. It's a pretty big analytical challenge. And it kind of made me realize I didn't want to go the finance route. I wanted to get a job. Like I said earlier, I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to not be at my desk all the time. It's just kind of, it was a really big personal preference that I found. So that's how I at least pivoted away from finance and then a little more towards my current industry. So got out of finance and realized I needed to do something else. So this is where the AKSI stuff gets really interesting. My girlfriend is a member of. I mean, she was in AKSI when I was in AKSI. We're still dating. We're both at Tableau. And there was one day where she convinced me to go to this Tableau demo with her at school. This is after my Amazon internship was over. And I think it was on a Thursday night. And I was thinking, man, Emily, I don't want to go to something on Thursday night. I'd rather go have fun or, not go to some, I don't know, tech demo or whatever. But, the boyfriend obligation kicked in and I was like, okay, fine, I'll go. And this is like a month after my internship was over. And I remember sitting there just in awe of what Tableau could do. Someone just basically was showing us what Tableau can do, how people can use it, why it's useful. And I was thinking, holy crap, that is awesome. And I need to go use that or work there or do something. So without her persuading me to go to something I didn't want to go, I wouldn't have gotten into Tableau, at least I think. So
yeah.
So props to her.
Yeah,
That's kind of
awesome.
how I got here. So Tableau was my first full-time job out of college. I worked in tech support at Tableau first, and then now my second job is a trainer. So I've only known Tableau after college full-time, but I've had two positions so far. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so, with the internship that you had at Amazon, did that break loose before you had graduated then, or was that something that you did like you graduated whilst in this internship? How did the timing kind of work out?
Yeah, so actually, it was after the summer of after my fourth year of college. That's when I started. So I think that was June 2014. And I told you I took a fifth year, so the internship just kind of pushed my graduation back. So I took 6 months off of school to do that in my last year, and then I had 2 quarters left in 2015.
Okay, killer. So then that broke loose. You had 2 quarters left, and then picked up into Tableau right afterwards.
You got it. Yep.
That's awesome. And so with the 2 positions, just because I want to make sure I understand the 2 different positions at Tableau, did you have to was that a lateral move or was that a promotion or did you have to actually apply? How did you get into the new position from the old position?
Yeah. So I had been in tech support for about 1.5 years, and I was starting to think of what I wanted to do next. I knew I wanted to stay at Tableau. I definitely didn't want to leave. So I wanted to figure out what did I like about support that I wanted to expand upon, and then what was I missing? So I realized I really liked the teaching aspect of my job, or explaining things to people. So kind of started looking around in the company at what positions could let me do some kind of teaching and also talking to people more in person. So I just found the role internally. Someone was sending an email around hey, do you know anybody that would be good for this role? And it just fell into my lap. So I had coffee with the manager and realized, yeah, it's something I want to go for. And I had a had an interview and I got it. And yeah, so it was a good move. I don't know if I would call it a lateral move, but it was a move.
Yeah, no, 100%. So it was an email that kind of prompted you to get a sit down and then you just interviewed from there. You didn't have to submit a resume or do any of this weird HR stuff that I hear about in other companies.
Yeah. Yeah. So the coffee, I mean, it was just an informal coffee meeting I had with the manager. At least that was the first move. For that, I did not have to submit anything. But when I realized I wanted to go through with the interview process, I mean, I did have to give them a resume. I did have to tell them why I wanted to switch. But yeah, nothing like external or, I don't have to go through the system or anything. So yeah, definitely a big advantage doing it internally.
No, 100%. And like, because the stories that you hear from friends and family, and just like, oh, so and so worked here, and then now they started small and now they're doing this big thing. They don't, a lot of times they did have to navigate their way through a company culture to get a position as well. It wasn't just something that they got handed to, but to be cognizant of like, hey, if you want to move up in a company, you want to do different things, you've got to lay those tracks. Stuart, I was talking to Stuart Pitts about his journey, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like all the different things that he did to get where he's at. It is amazing. Awesome.
My story is not as I don't know how you describe Stuart's story, but yeah, obviously is an awesome one. So what I started at Tableau not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I know I didn't want to do tech support for my dream job, but I knew I wanted to be at Tableau. So I had to figure out, okay, how do I get in to a role that is like kind of like a foot in the door role? How do I position myself to have a better opportunity to get a better job later, because I knew like right out of college I wouldn't be able to get certain jobs. Like my job right now, I would not be able to get that unless I had gotten my foot in the door at support, learned the product, learned the company, and then given myself the opportunity to receive that email about the opening. Like that wouldn't have happened if I went for that straight up. So
yeah, 100%. It definitely takes the work to get things moving and shaking. And I love the fact that you did an internship with Amazon in finance, and you were like, nope, not gonna do finance.
And that's why internships are good. You realize, hey, I love that, or I'm not doing that. So
yeah, 100%.
I had the latter.
Did you have any other internship or volunteer experiences that kind of shaped what you like? Because you said that kind of early on that you like numbers and you're good with numbers, and that's what drew you to finance and then information systems. But like early on, like we can go way back. But did you have any other experiences that kind of shaped the desire to work with numbers?
That's a good question. I think I had a lot of unrelated internships prior to Amazon. I think the schoolwork and the numbers I would do, or the numbers I'd work with during school, like drew me to finance. But I mean, man, I had some interesting internships. Like I worked at a real estate company. They had me like leasing apartments when I was 18 or 19, and I was thinking like, are you sure you want me to do that? Because I'm 18 and 19 years old. But they let me do it anyways, and so I don't know. Got to talk to people and drive around Seattle. That was fun. Let's see. Before that, I delivered pizza at ZEEKS. ZEEKS is an awesome spot. I guess I had to make sure I had the right change for people. I don't know. Nothing too related to numbers, but they were all fun.
No, that's it. I mean, we're all shaped by our experiences too, and what we take away from them. So I love it. That's awesome. And so now in your position, like I know a handful of people over at Tableau. I don't know how big the company has gotten, but I know that they have been or still are very much at a growth phase in their business. For the folks listening and watching at home, because Tableau is not a name that a lot of people are familiar with. You and I'm like, well, I think I know that they help people understand, data analytics and stuff. But is there anything like? Can you tell folks a little bit about the firm, a little bit about the company, like real quick, just so that they kind of have a heads up of what it is?
Yeah. So Tableau is a data visualization company. what that really means, and this is kind of how I describe it to people who just aren't familiar with the area. Like, this is how I try to translate this to my mom, who doesn't know too much about it. I'll say it's a way that anybody, doesn't matter what position or what expertise you have, we give people ways to translate data into something that actually makes sense, right? If you open a giant spreadsheet with numbers everywhere, a couple words, and you show it to my mom, she's going to look at it and be like, I don't know what I'm looking at. This is just a sea of numbers. So the idea is that Tableau can help you turn that into something understandable or turn that into, insights, things you can understand. And it doesn't really matter what type of data you're looking at. So yeah, it's like translating data into useful pieces of information. That's how I describe it. Yeah, definitely in a big growth phase. Let's see, we started, I think we started in the late 2000s. We IPO'd in 2013. Now we have a lot of buildings in Fremont. So if you ever go to Fremont Brewing, or if you're over at Gasworks, you'll see our buildings.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know that there was an IPO. That's awesome.
Yep. Our stock ticker is DATA, which is pretty cool.
That is awesome. That's so good. So with your position there, and you travel a bunch for work, are you is that something that you were looking for also in a career, the travel aspect, or is that just kind of like unintended, well, it depends on how you look at it, benefit or consequence?
Right. Yeah. So when I got my first job out of college, I wasn't really thinking about traveling. I was thinking, maybe I'd do it later, but it was more of a passive thought. And then when I found the trainer role, I learned that it required a lot of traveling. So that's actually something I had to think about a lot before I did my interview. Like, would I be okay with, not being home half the time? So I had to think about that a lot, but it turned out to be really awesome. Like, I like going to other cities that I wouldn't normally go to. I love eating food. Like, God, yeah, just absolutely love it. So I get to try new things on the road. And I don't travel every week, so I take about 2 trips a month. Those 2 trips are probably like 3 or 4 days, so it's not too bad. There are other jobs out there that, like, if you're a consultant, you're probably going to be traveling like every week. One of my roommates, who was also an AKSI, has to travel basically every week. And I knew that was a little too much. So this was like a good compromise between staying put and being gone all the time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like the idea of being able to travel, and your gig sounds awesome, because I also
it's so good. Yeah,
I love the teaching aspect. I love feeling like I'm contributing. Like, it all just sounds. I was talking to some Dylan is a consultant, and talking to him about kind of his story. It also sounds like every time I talk to someone, I'm like, oh my gosh, what you're doing is amazing. I just feel like it's like so cool. And so with so your big help to get to that Amazon internship, was that something that they just said, like, oh, you should do this, or did they know somebody and connect you with somebody? How did that how did you really influence your getting that internship?
Yeah, so it was actually him and a bunch of people that helped. We joked around when I was in AKSI, or when I was in membership, that internship was just being passed around like a hot potato. Like, so many people did that internship. So he had already done it. A couple of my other friends were already doing it. Everybody seemed to think it was a good experience. So, I mean, that's kind of just what attracted me to it.
Perfect. And so you just signed? You just signed up for that? Said, I go to UW. I want this internship. Sent in some paper, and they said, come on board.
No, I wish it was that easy. So Cameron and a couple of other of my friends submitted my resume, like, just to the recruiter directly, so I didn't have to, apply online. So they were able to make a referral for me. So that allowed me to skip a couple steps, get to the interview, and then try it out. I actually had gotten referred one time before, and I just didn't do very well in the interview, and I didn't get it. So I got referred again later on, and then I got it. So
nice.
Don't give up on the first try.
No, and it helps too if you have somebody that can turn that resume in directly. it's not going to hurt you at all. What about,
Mhm.
and then so with Emily, she said, hey, you should come check out this thing. You were like, I don't really want to do that, but I'll
Mhm.
go. And then
Yeah.
you went. And then what was the hiring process from there? Was it a cold submission
Yeah.
of a resume from that point, or how did
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
navigate that part?
Oh man. Yeah, it was not a linear process. I think I'm really proud of how I got into the Tableau role, because I had to do a lot to get there. Because at the time, like, Tableau wasn't looking for college graduates as much as other companies might. Like, for example, at Amazon, there were a plethora of different positions I could apply for right out of college. At Tableau, it was just smaller, and so there were just less positions. So I mean, I really had to work to get the opportunity. Um, so this is kind of the timeline. So I went to the demo, and then I talked to the person who was in charge of the demo. I got her business card, so did Emily, and then we had, you know, and then we organized, we both organized a coffee chat with her, like, separately, to figure out, okay, where would we want to go specifically in Tableau. That was like the first informational, like, hey, what is even out there? And then that person, after our coffee chat, referred me to another person at Tableau that I could talk to, that was more specific to, like, what I wanted to do. So I had coffee with him, and then I, got to know that position, and it was called product consultant. That was the position I wanted first. So I talked to him, and then he helped me get an interview, and then I had the interview, and I was really excited about it, and I felt like, man, I did everything right. And then I had a second phone interview for that job, and then I didn't get it. And I was thinking, man, I just worked my butt off. Like, I, talked to this person, I had coffee, I researched, I studied, and I just didn't get it. I just had one of those bad interview days where, you just didn't have it that day. So I talked to the recruiter about other positions that might, be available, and I got a couple of ideas. And so one of them was tech support. So I was thinking, I don't know if I want to do tech support, but there are things that I'd like about it, and I do want to get in the company, so maybe I'll just go for that. So I went on LinkedIn. I saw I had a friend who worked at Tableau in tech support, so I had coffee with him. We chatted. He helped refer me. We got me an interview, and then I got that job. So I think the theme here is that I succeed on the second try, never the first try.
Second mouse gets the cheese, right?
That's it.
How it goes. Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. The dedication and the hard work's definitely there. And the LinkedIn plug, I mean, LinkedIn is so powerful. I don't think people realize it's amazing.
It is.
So I love that. No, I love that. You were for the Amazon. You got the warm handoff. Had somebody that you knew that knew you, and then with Tableau, you really put your nose to the grindstone and went after it. So that's awesome, man. What is you still in contact with Cameron?
Oh yeah.
And what's he doing now?
Yeah, so he's at Amazon. He's still at Amazon. So after he did the finance internship, and I think he did another one, he went back to Amazon full time, but as I think a business analyst. That was his first job, and then I think he had another job as a program manager. So yeah, he's really moved around at Amazon. So he's still there. I think his girlfriend is there too, who is also an AKSI.
So crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
He didn't leave.
Yeah, killer. Well, that's one of the things that really the reason I wanted to put something together like this for people is I wanted folks in chapter to be able to see that, hey, look, you don't just go to college, land a job, and that's it. All the work that you work to put on an event, the navigating and getting in touch with stakeholders, trying to, it all translates out and to what most people end up doing career-wise too. It's like a little bit of this. I go to a demo, meet some people, introduce, and you're looking for those warm handoffs. So I really appreciate it. I mean, your story is classic. You've done it's the warm handoffs, the networking, even though people think that's a dirty word, but talking to people and making it happen and having coffee. And so I love it. I think it's great.
Yep, that's it, man. You got it.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the I have a few just kind of standard questions that I like to kind of follow up with people on.
Yeah.
And the first, I mean, is there anything that you know, we've been prepping to try to get in touch with each other for a while. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you kind of that you imagined we would cover that we haven't covered yet?
I guess just a little bit about like how AK Psi, how's AK Psi like affected me out of college. I figured we would chat about that too.
100%. I mean, yeah, absolutely, because I know that the RHO chapter has a strong, you know, alumni presence. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you post chapter.
Yeah. So let's see. Right now, I live in a house with 4 other people. 3 of them were in AK Psi with me. I've lived with 2 of them for 2 years. I lived with Cameron my first year out of college. So post college, my roommates have always been in AK Psi. So I've got the roommate side. Of course, you know, I'm dating Emily, who, you know, she was a brother. Let's see, we played underdog softball. It's like you know, rec league softball around Seattle.
Yeah.
We had a team of a bunch of AK Psi alumni, so that was fun. We played fantasy football with a bunch of brothers last year. Man, yeah. So it's pretty much everywhere in my life, which is awesome.
It is funny when you go to the first, like, I know for me, we you go to the first like pledge, whatever the first thing, before you even start pledging. It's like the info meeting, right, or whatever, and they play there was like some slideshow or some movie they played for us. It was a little bit cheesy, but they had like this lifelong, you know, friendships and lifelong and all that stuff. And you're like, okay, like I don't really know. It's totally everything. It's everything.
Right. Yeah. Plenty of evidence of that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, one of the questions I always like to ask people is because, you know, you put in a lot of work. You remember a lot of the life choices pretty clearly that folks have made, that you have made on your journey to get where you are today. So I always like to kind of take a seminal moment, like whether that was from high school to college, or if it was, you know, going further back as a high school student yourself. If there were 2 pieces of real tangible advice that you could give your past self, either somewhere in high school or before college, that would help you, you know, that would have had helped you get where you are today faster, what 2 tangible things would you have? You know, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. So number 1, I'd say I'd kind of kick myself and tell myself to get more uncomfortable early. I learned a lot after I got, you know, really uncomfortable, meaning, you know, I learned a lot after I tried new things. I went for, you know, like I said, positions I didn't think I could go for. I did public speaking when I was kind of scared to do it. All that stuff really helped me grow. I wish I did that earlier. I mean, I think I did it at a pretty good time, but I mean, earlier would have always been better. So that's number 1. Man, number 2. Let's see. Probably just, hey, don't forget about enjoying yourself while you're, you know, in high school or college. I mean, in college, I took on a lot of stuff. Like I did a lot of clubs. I had AK Psi. I had this and that. I mean, of course, I had plenty of fun in college, but it was a limited amount of time. So I'd tell myself to, you know, remember that it's limited and keep and try to have as much fun as possible.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That goes for post college too. Don't forget about having fun.
Yeah, always. I think that's super good advice. Pitts is fresh in my mind because I just talked to him, but his was do more, right? Internships, just do more of them. Work for free, try more things, and you're right in the same vein with, you know, going for it and doing more stuff. I love it. That's awesome. If you know, after taking a look at that type of stuff, and like really, because if you take a minute, like, I don't know, if you're a big goal guy, I was talking to Sean Durkin, and he's way into, like, he writes his goals down like once a week or every night before he goes to bed or something. Like, he's just hitting it hard. I mean, the guy's just an animal, and like, totally follow, watch what he does. I mean, he's amazing. But, you know, with taking a look at doing more and trying to achieve more and do that kind of stuff, and the willingness to go out and taste things. What do you think sets apart people who are really killing it, right? Who are just doing awesome things and on that exponential growth curve
Hmm.
to the folks that we all know that we might love and care about, but that just aren't. Do you
Yeah.
think that there's something different, or can you do you
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean touch on that? 'Cause
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're killing it, and so
Yeah. 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 I think, yeah, one thing I think about is that those people do a lot of extras. So when I say extras, I mean, they might do things that people wouldn't expect out of them. So for example, I always equate this to like applying for a job. All of the applicants are going to submit a resume. They're going to reread their resume. They're going to try to get a referral. They're going to do this kind of stuff. But the people who will set themselves apart are going to do more than more than the average. So they are definitely going to have a good resume. Of course, they're going to get a referral in, but what else are they going to do? Well, they might, for example, make a video and send it to the recruiter. They might, reach out to someone they know in the team way ahead of time. They may do a ton of research. If they're applying for Tableau, maybe they try to learn Tableau before they even get an interview. Maybe they make a resume using Tableau rather than just a Word document, right? So these people that are going to succeed are willing to do different things, like really willing to not just do what is expected or anticipated. So doing the extras for sure.
100%, man.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's awesome. I would love to. I mean, like, if I was watching this and I was about to go out to apply a bunch of stuff, I'd be so pumped because I would work up my best resume. I'd start, like, already heard you talking about meeting people and hunting them down over
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn to have hey, I saw that you do X, Y, and Z. Informational interviews. I mean, it would just be just going for it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I think you've got it dialed. One of the other things that because I'm always curious to learn, and others I think are too, is when you're out kind of hustling and doing a bunch of stuff and you've got a lot of irons in the fire, I always think it's interesting to ask who you're taking advice from, whether it's like, somebody on TV or a podcast or an author that you think really nails it on the head, or if it's a personal mentor. Do you have anybody that you're listening and watching or reading? Who are you taking your advice from these days?
Yeah, a lot of them are actually just my teammates at work. So my job is really unique in that a lot of people don't do what I do. So I try to get advice from people who do what I do and who have been doing it for a while. So yeah, I seek out advice from them. A lot of my teammates are older than me, so they can tell me what they've been through and give a younger dude like myself some useful advice. So yeah, mostly them. They really understand where I'm at because they understand what the role that we have requires us to do. With the traveling, the lifestyle changes, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, so they're great. I've been really lucky to have awesome teammates in my new job. So that's worked out pretty well from an advice point of view.
Nice. Are you listening to any just podcasts in general or favorite authors in general?
Just this one, of course.
That's very
Yeah, no, it's on my list of to-dos is to find podcasts I can listen to like on the way to work or on the airplane or even at the gym. So if you have recommendations, throw them over.
Yeah, no, I was just listening to Freakonomics because they got it on NPR. Yep. That's a great show. Mm-hmm. But no, that's why I ask is because I usually, typically I'll listen to like a Gary Vaynerchuk or a Grant Cardone or some of these other guys or some other investment Bigger Pockets podcasts. I listen to them. Mm-hmm. But that's why I'm always asking, is because I want to know what other people are listening to. So so that I can check it out for myself.
For sure.
As fun as it is to share this with everybody, like I get a little piece from it too. Awesome, man. I'm so pumped. I really appreciate you knocking some time out for us and sharing this with us. I know we talked a little bit about LinkedIn, but if somebody's out there looking to reach out to you or have more questions, what's the best way to connect with you?
For sure. Yeah. Facebook is good. LinkedIn is good. I mean, I'm a super casual guy, so I don't really mind either way. But yeah, I mean, if you're listening and you want to hit me up about Tableau or whatever, if you're in Seattle, out of Seattle, I don't really mind. Just hit me up. We can talk.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's killer. Yeah, we'll see if I can get technology on my side and learn how to link things up in the show notes for folks. But you know, I'm surprised I got this video thing to work. So you know, hey, it's fun. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you jumping on the line with us. And so, you know, folks that are listening and watching at home, hit Michael up and say hello and thank him for being on the show with us. And if you have questions, reach out. And yeah, man, always pumped. I'll look to connect with you again soon.
Yeah, you got it. Take it easy, man.